Watkins with the James G. Martin Center for Academic Renewal, and I am here today speaking with Jacqueline Pfeffer Merrill. Jackie is the director of the Bipartisan Policy Center's Campus Free Expression Project, where she works to support a campus culture that is diverse, inclusive, and open to robust intellectual exchange. Jackie, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I appreciate it.
And Shannon, thanks very much for this invitation from the Martin Center.
Absolutely. So to get started, Jackie, could you give me a little bit of background on the Bipartisan Policy Center? What is its mission and its goals?
Sure, I'm glad to do so. The Bipartisan Policy Center is a Washington, D.C. think tank that strives to bring the best ideas from both parties to promote security and opportunity for American families. We have a wide variety of issue areas in which we bring together experts from across the political spectrum. And we know from that work that bipartisanship is really difficult. In fact, we're the only organization in Washington, D.C. that has bipartisanship in its name. And to make for a strong future for bipartisanship, about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, BPC decided that it wanted to have a campus free expression project.
Excellent, thank you. Well, tell me a little bit more about the Free Expression Project and the work that you do with it.
Thank you. So the Campus Free Expression Project, as you mentioned at the top, works with campus leaders and to develop policies, programs, and curricula that make for a welcoming environment for robust intellectual exchange. At BPC, we're really concerned that colleges prepare students to be those who are able to have conversations across principled disagreements and to work constructively with people with whom one might have a very different point of view. So that's why BPC was interested in starting this project and the spirit in which we're undertaking this work.
Fantastic. So the center's only, or the project, I should say, is only a few years old. What were some of the first projects that you undertook?
Sure. Well, we really wanted to start working with those who had experience in this issue area and learn more about it and learn to and be a convener in this area, which is one of the things that I think BPC is really expert in. One of our first panels featured a number of speakers who had been disinvited from giving a presentation on a college campus. And we had on that panel Bob Kerrey, Senator and Governor of Nebraska, who had been disinvited for his pro-choice stance for giving an address at a university. And we had also in that same panel, noted constitutional and political theory scholar Harvey Mansfield, who had been disinvited from giving a commencement address. So that panel, I think, really shows one thing that we've been really concerned with, which is that the ways in which freedom of expression has been restricted across the political spectrum. It's not something that is just of concern to those on the right or those on the left, but we've really seen challenges to open exchange and the viewpoints being expressed of people from the right or from the left.
Well, so that's interesting. So threats are coming from both sides of the aisle. What are some other specific obstacles to free expression on college campuses?
Sure. It's a complicated. There are a lot of challenges to open exchange on college campuses, which is why we need a lot of strategies to try to restore a campus culture of freedom of expression and frank and open dialogue. So one of the challenges that we find that's an important one today is social media, which is something that is off campus as well as on campus, but it has really transformed conversation on college campuses, even on residential campuses where people could be face-to-face. The Knight Gallup 2020 survey of undergraduates found that 58% of students said that most discussion of social and political ideas takes place on social media, even though only 29% of those students say that such conversation is usually civil. So that means that people are engaged in fractious, uncivil conversation. It's a media that encourages outrage, that silos those who think of a certain way and encourages the one to think, have people who have different views aren't just people with different views, but are bad people. And certainly it's not a forum that supports nuanced discussion and debate. You can't develop kind of an academically robust position in 140 characters.
No, you certainly can't. Do you find that, how's the climate on campus when students are in the classroom or attending events in person? Maybe some of that rhetoric is less intense than it would be online.
I think in person is almost always better than online, but unfortunately, it's not as, people aren't as comfortable as we would like for them to be in order to really have fruitful conversations. So there's kind of a twin set of problems. One is that there is a minority of students who are willing to engage in censorious behavior, who are willing to use the heckler's veto at public events, who are willing to call out students for classroom comments, as well as comments made elsewhere on social media, who are really willing to block speakers and block open exchange. And so that minority of students really gets in the way of the campus experience of every student and every member of the campus community. But related to that is this phenomenon of self-censorship. 68% of students in the College Pulse survey said that the climate on their campus keeps them from expressing some of the views that they hold. And if it's the case that 68% of students feel like they can't express, or some students can't express their views on the campus, that really means that 100% of the students aren't having the experience that they should have on a college campus.
Yes, I know of a survey at UNC Chapel Hill. Is that the one you're referencing, or is there another survey that I'm not aware of?
I was mentioning the College Pulse survey, which is a 2019 survey. But I think I do want to mention that UNC survey. I think it's a really important one, and I came out in early 2020, and really kudos to UNC Chapel Hill for its researchers for surveying the campus culture of free expression and making all those findings public, because I think the challenges to a free expression culture that survey documents exists on college campuses across the country, and many campuses are not willing to be as frank and open about them. So that survey showed all kinds of challenges to kind of a culture of open inquiry, including in the classroom, where it found that 43% of conservatives and 10% of liberal students said that they were worried about their classroom comments appearing on social media. So that means that students are holding back, even when there's a faculty member in the room providing kind of guidance on and guardrails for difficult conversations where people might really express different points of view. So if self-censorship is taking place in that setting, then one is worried that on the quad, in the dorms, in other settings, that people are even more cautious about saying what they think. And it's a real obstacle to colleges and universities accomplishing their mission of making students be independent thinkers, people who are able to stress test their views and have them challenged, and to graduate as people who are ready to be citizens and civic leaders who can work with people who have all kinds of views in our polity.
No, absolutely. And I did hear that the UNC system is going to expand that survey to a few other UNC system schools. So I find that encouraging that that a light will be, continue to be shined on this issue.
Yep, it is very much to the credit of the system, and having a data-driven approach to looking at these questions on college campuses is really terrific, because it lets you benchmark where the campus culture is, and really focus on what are the things that are going right and what are the things that really need focus. One thing I want to mention about that UNC survey, there's a trope that that faculty use their classrooms for, to indoctrinate students. And, that was not supported by the survey at Chapel Hill, where, students overwhelmingly said that their faculty make it feel comfortable for people to express views across the political spectrum.
Wonderful. Have there been any, this is definitely progress, but have there been any victories when it comes to campus free speech?
I think so. And I want to come back. I want to tie them to your question about, what are all the challenges on a college campus? Because we've talked about social media, we've talked about self-censorship, we've talked about students who are censorious, willing to call out their peers. But I think there are other challenges too. And so, one of the important challenges is the question of a lack of viewpoint diversity on campus, or at least perceived viewpoint diversity. I think it's often the case that there's a greater variety of views on college campuses than sometimes appears to be the case. I know that the Martin Center has done terrific work on this question of viewpoint diversity, and your work with George Lanou. And it's an area where senior campus leadership can really make a difference on campus, and showcasing different points of view and showing that people can have conversations across all kinds of different viewpoints. So I want to cite the example of Ron Crutcher, who just finished his term as president of the University of Richmond, and he hosted two series, the Sharp Viewpoint series and Spider Talks. The mascot at the University of Richmond, they're the spiders. And among the many speakers he hosted were pairs like Robbie George and Cornell West, two scholars who are friends, who really disagree with one another, and who in their conversations really model how people can have serious conversation with people who understand the world in a really different way. So I think that leadership at the top on viewpoint diversity is an important part of the positive things that we can see on a college campus.
That's fantastic. I really, really like that idea. We'll see for sure the presence of moderated discussions and debates, but I think it does really, it adds an important emphasis when it is someone from the top like that. So I really do like that idea.
I think it's also really, the leadership at the top is really important in so many other ways. I think, there's also, leadership models respectful exchange. And I think it's also really important to defend controversial expression, and to say that the campus is really open to people articulating their views and making their best case for them. And I just think about example at Syracuse University. We had an example just a few weeks ago, 9/11, a professor had a very controversial tweet related to the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And a lot of people took offense to the statement, and the chancellor and her dean defended the professor's ability to express her opinion. And I think that means that the campus leadership is making it safe for people who have all kinds of points of view, whether they're students, whether they're faculty, to express their opinions in scholarship, in the classroom, in extramural speech. So I think that leadership piece is a really important one.
No, that's an excellent recommendation. Are there any other policy recommendations that that you have for campuses?
Well, as I think the BPC has convened an academic leaders task force on campus free expression. And I don't want to get ahead of our findings and recommendations in our report that will come out later in 2021. But we really are looking at a range of things, a range of recommendations and policies amongst all the components of the university community. And one thing that you and I haven't discussed yet in our conversation today is the role of faculty. The leadership at the top really matters, but it's also, it's the faculty who are the ones in the classroom who are with students and have the opportunity to model how to have a conversation and to present students with all kinds of different ideas and to learn how to weigh them. And I think that the faculty role is really essential to cultivating a free expression culture.
No, I absolutely agree. Is there anything else that you would like our viewers to look to for how to improve campus free expression?
I'll add a couple other things. I do think it's a very challenging issue, and it's not easy for colleges and universities to get right in what I think is a really a changing time. And we've already mentioned social media has changed how all of us engage with one another. I think for colleges and universities, welcoming these Generation Z social media and cell phone using students to college campuses, I think there's a lot of work to be done to increase the skills that students arrive on campus with. 18-year-olds arrive on campus often from communities and neighborhoods where most people were kind of like their own family. They had similar news sources and similar backgrounds and similar, very often political views. And so it's really hard when students arrive on campus to learn to have conversations with people who are really different, when you have to take more risks in those conversations, and it can just be harder. So students can't be ready and can't necessarily be expected to be ready when they matriculate. And so I think I really appreciate the work that many colleges and universities are doing to focus on that skill set, to be a good listener, to be empathetic, and to not to know that when you give somebody a hearing, you're not necessarily endorsing what they have to say and how to have those conversations. So I think one thing that is important is the number of schools that are doing more for students beginning when they matriculate, including with freshman orientation. FIRE and First Amendment Watch have brought out a series of freshman orientation programs and panels that can be used with students as they matriculate, and also in later years too. On the FIRE website, there's an interview with one of our task force members, Dan Cullen, who's a professor of philosophy at Rhodes College, about how he used one of those modules with a class that was not just for first year students. So I think that building those skills is a really essential piece of helping to have a really robust free expression culture on campus. Is not just enough to have no beach code and no restrictions, you really need to have people ready and willing and eager to have their ideas stress tested.
Absolutely agree. Well, Jackie, those are all my questions. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Looking forward to the release of our report later this year. I think, it's so important for colleges and universities to not only transmit a certain body of knowledge to their students, but really to cultivate within them the kind of virtues of skepticism, of asking, am I wrong? Is there another point of view that might be better or more complete than my own? To be really resilient when I hear ideas with which they disagree, and to have the kind of civic courage to present their own ideas and to challenge others. And I think that is how colleges and universities have an important role in contributing to the development of our young people as citizens and civic leaders.
Excellent. Jackie, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Well, Shannon, thanks so much for taking time to speak.